So welcome. So as always, let's start out by putting name, personal pronouns, and what city you're zooming in from in the chat. My name is Ben Robinson, pronouns he, him, zooming in from Denver, and I am with Great Education, Colorado. At the beginning of this year, we redid our vision and mission, and so to sort of hammer those home, we're reading those in all of these meetings. So our vision is as follows: through public education, every Colorado student, regardless of their zip code, learning needs, language, identities, or the color of their skin, graduates prepared to lead their best life. And then our mission is Great Education Colorado harnesses the power of grassroots activism and diverse, inclusive networks to guarantee that public schools in every Colorado community are welcoming and adequately, equitably, and sustainably funded. All right. As always, our goal for GEC Advocates Network is to create a space for us to build community and take action together, which I think we've done a pretty good job of over the past couple of years. And we meet the second Tuesday of every month from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. I will go ahead and stick that registration link in the chat in a little bit, but let's go ahead and get through the rest of our opening slides first. All right, community commitments. So these are the commitments that help us guide our conduct here. And so the first one is move up, move back. All of you have great things to say. We've seen it, 10, 15 times before. We have great conversations here, but please don't monopolize the conversation and leave space for others to come forward and say what they need to say as well. Number two, no one knows everything, but together we know a lot. Let's learn together. We all bring a different perspective here, or multiple different perspectives, whether we're former teachers, all of us are former students, some of us are active students. So we all bring those different perspectives here, and let's sort of learn from each other. And sorry about that. And then the last one is presuming positive intent, but acknowledging our impact. It does happen sometimes that we say things that hurt other people, that someone else doesn't like. So if that happens, it's on us to acknowledge that, to say, well, hey, listen, I meant this, but I know it hit like this, and I'm sorry about that. And then we can move on with our business. All right. All right, which brings us to the substance of this discussion tonight, which is first, public education voter 2023, and second, what can we do to help get out the vote between now and election day, which is, I believe, exactly 3 weeks away. So as we've discussed in past meetings, our stances on the issues are yes on Prop HH, yes on Proposition II, decline to sign Initiative 50, and then we are all about asking our school board candidates the right questions at their forums. So I'm actually going to go now, switch my screen real quick. Oops. And bring us to public education voter slate. Hello, Lisa. Welcome.
Yeah. He's just still looking around. He's not saying anything. Now he's talking.
All right. All right. So you may have seen this before, but the page now has more to it than the last time we showed you all. So this is our public education voter slate, and these are our recommendations. I just stated them, but yes on Prop HH, yes on Prop II, and yes on candidates committed to welcoming adequately, equitably funded schools, right? And just as a reminder, when we're talking about public education voter, our guidelines are as follows. Yes on measures that prevent cuts now and in the futures. Yes on measures that secure more funding for public education. No on measures that make cuts to education funding now and in the future. and no on measures that would implement an unfunded mandate, which we see an awful lot of in this state. All right. Well, so just sort of, the last time we talked about this was a month ago or so, but to go over why we are supporting HH again. And the basic reason is that it provides needed property tax relief without hurting schools. And additionally, if things happen the way we want them to, it could provide additional revenue to schools as well. So it could, the amount put back in the state education fund could be greater than the amount of school funds lost because of the cut property taxes. I'm just going to ask if you are not on mute and not speaking, if you would please mute yourselves. And so that would start paying back the $10 billion in cuts. Obviously, it wouldn't do all of it, but it's a good start. And that's why we support Proposition HH. Proposition II is something that is quite easy to understand, especially to any of you familiar with Prop CC, or sorry, not Prop CC. Oh my goodness, Prop EE, and which was that tax, that new nicotine tax from 2020. So this basically just says, well, during Prop EE, we raised more than we projected. And this is asking us to be able to use that quote unquote extra money and funnel it to universal pre-K, which is a program that is both incredibly important and desperately in need of funding. So this would allow us to retain that 23.65 million that we otherwise would not be able to put towards that investment. And then choosing school board candidates, our last category here. We've said it a bunch. We don't endorse candidates. We can't endorse candidates. We're not going to endorse candidates. But we can help you ask the right questions of candidates to determine whether or not they are a good fit for our students and teachers, whether they're going to make legislation in the best interests of our districts. And so the first question here, and obviously these are sort of sample questions. You can ask these questions, and you can also, I mean, feel free to ask other questions as well. But what is your plan to support adequate and equitable school funding at the local and state level? You know, so we don't just ask them whether or not they're going to do it. We want their plan, right? Yes, no answers are not good. And we don't want to ask questions that guide them, that bring them in that direction. What is your plan to ensure that our district schools are welcoming to all students, regardless of their zip code, learning needs, identity, skin color, and language? Again, we're looking for a substantive response there. That's why we ask the question that way. This one is a yes/no question because we think a yes/no reveals a lot about, you know, we don't think vouchers are a good thing. So do you support vouchers at the state or local level? You know, we consider a yes answer to be not a good thing and a no answer to be a good thing. And the last one, and we can ask this one with a follow-up question too. Will you implement the social studies and the state social studies and civic standards adopted last year by the State Board of Education? Again, we did a whole advocates network, I believe, on the social studies standards last year, but it's imperative that, you know, we get them implemented at the local level for obvious reasons. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that when the state board passed those standards, they don't have the power to implement them, right? The boards do. And so it's imperative that we make sure that the people we are electing to the boards and putting in these positions are committed to doing that for our kids. Lisa, did I miss? Yep, there you are.
I just wanted to add a couple things about this. We did earlier in the summer the advocates network about the school board races, and since then we have come to find that there are a number of districts, probably more than 30, where there are candidates who would not answer, maybe even wouldn't answer these questions, but certainly not in ways. Okay, I can tell that I'm not clear, so I'm going to stop being able to hear you, but you'll be able to hear me. Hang on.
Is that better?
Yes,
Much better.
way better.
Technology. So the main point here, that last question, will you implement the state social studies standards, gets at a question that is, you would think that obviously if the state adopted standards that every district would adopt them. There are at least 2 districts who have either considered or have adopted standards called the American Birthright Standards that the State Board of Education rejected specifically because they do not really teach American history in its in a comprehensive, honest, complete way. And so these school board candidate races really are critical this year. I am going to, just for your information, I'm going to post, put in a link to somebody else's questions, voter guide. And maybe don't look at it right now, but this is what others are asking our school board candidates across the state. They are very, they are opposed to the kinds of questions that we're asking, or they are contrary. It's what we're up against, and it's why we really need to get people to know that public education is on the ballot this year, and that everybody needs, despite the fact that it's an odd year election, they've got to get out, they've got to find out where candidates stand on these issues. And hopefully, Ben, that's a segue for you.
Yeah, so also on this page that I mentioned earlier, we have something new to the first time we showed it to you, which is this thing right here. So the 2023 school board candidate forum information. On the left, you'll see a description. On the right is the map, okay, of all of the school board forums that have either happened or are going to happen. And so the ones that are going to happen are in green. The ones that have happened are in sort of that reddish orange color, whatever it is right there. And we have been collecting information on the ones that have happened. And we would like to continue doing that, right? So if you do know of a school board race, if you have, or sorry, forum, if you have attended one, if you plan to attend one, and you have access to recordings, or reporting about it. And so I stress reporting about the event because we don't want opinions about it, right? We want sort of just what happened, basically, essentially the minutes, and to see what kinds of interactions are going on in these forums around the state. And then if you have any more, I think they can be added, correct, Lisa?
Absolutely.
Okay. But yeah, so this is sort of the center for where all of this stuff is happening. We made this map, I believe, a couple weeks ago, and we've had some people attend forums, but there are more forums to come. And it's also important that if you have information about a forum you've been to, it would be great if you could send that to our policy fellow right now. So her name is Kristen Olish. And Lisa, would you mind putting her email in the chat real quick?
Oh, yeah.
Great. Lisa, any more on school board forums, opportunities for involvement there?
Ben, I would just say click on one of those flags so people can see what it shows and how. So that's the forum that has yet to happen because it's a green one. On the red ones, some of those have happened, and we have the URL to the recording of it on YouTube or wherever it was recorded. So that's what Ben is asking is if you went to one and you know that there's a YouTube recording of it, or you read reporting, again, as Ben said, not opinions, not endorsements, but reporting on this is what the candidates said. We can put that kind of neutral information into this so that when people come to the public education voters slate and say, well, how do I know what the candidates' answers to these would be if the forum has already happened, that they can still get, that this can be a source of information for people to answer the question, you know, which of these candidates is about welcoming schools and will teach honest, it will support honest history.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. So I'm going to go ahead real quick and just put the link to that page in the chat. And then we will move on to what you can do to get involved and make sure that we can win for our students and teachers in less than a month. Does anybody have any questions before we move on? I know this is sort of rehashing old stuff, but any questions?
Actually, I had a question, and my apologies. This is my first time here. I'm not terribly familiar. Why is it so important that you don't make recommendations or of candidates and that kind of thing?
Great Education Colorado is a charitable organization of 501c3. And so we never have endorsed particular candidates. What we can do is encourage people to learn where they stand on issues of importance to public education. And we want to make it possible for people to have access to that. And they can make up their own minds based on if they, you know, on the responses to that and that we can only give people information, and we can encourage people to vote and let people know that public education is very much on the ballot, both through the ballot initiatives, the HH and II, and what's going on in many school districts.
I mean, so I understand it's a function of the type of organization you are. And yet you can make recommendations on II and HH, but not on individual candidates. Okay. That's just the way it is, right?
In the tax code, that organizations can take a stand on ballot measures. There's a limit to how much our C3 can spend on that. Then there's all kinds of stuff like that. But there is there's a difference between a ballot measure and candidates. And I would point out that that link that I put in from Transform Colorado, also, they're not saying who to vote for. And so they're probably C3 as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for the question. All right, let's go ahead and go back to our slides. All right, so as we do a lot of years, we are offering some text options this year. It is by far the easiest way to reach out to others and to get them in the know about what's going on the ballot, and to give them even an education in what's going on the ballot, and to be able to sort of interact with them for a few texts and make sure that they can ask the questions they need, and hopefully that they're headed in the right direction. So this little thing up here, this QR code, it would be great if you could take out your phones if you're interested in texting. And we'll also have another texting opportunity after this too on the following slide. But we have been working with One Colorado on Public Education Voter this year, sort of joining forces to come up with new questions, sharpen our language, things like that. And this is a link here. This is a QR code to text with One Colorado in, I believe, 3 different, you have your choice of 3 different sessions. So they are already, the times are already down. I believe there's going to be pizza involved. If that is a draw for you, I know it would be for me. But go ahead, take out your phones. And let them know that you want to get texting with us in grade ed. Lisa?
Yeah, we are partnering very closely with One Colorado. We've done our texting in the past, and it's been through a system that grade ed engaged. It's called Scale to Win. Instead of us setting up a whole bunch of different text banks, we are cooperating with One Colorado. And so they are setting up these in-person in-person meetings or text banks. The link, you can either use a QR code or I put the link in the chat. And so that's what, physically going there. But the good news is we are going to be participating in an effort, and as many people as we can get to text, we will be able to put texts in front of you. Ben will talk about another way. Many of you have texted with us before from the comfort of your own homes. So back to you, Ben.
All right, sweet. Yeah, so for those of you who don't want to text at an event with One Colorado, although it sounds pretty fun to me, you can text on your own time too. And so this is going to be through the same service as we're using for those texting events, but you will be able to do it where you want and when you want. So this QR code, pretty similar to the last one, but it goes to our sign up page, our Great Ed's Every Action sign up page. And at the bottom of that, you can select texting or text bank. And basically we'll be collecting names from this over the next week or so, and then giving them to One Colorado so that the people in charge of the actual infrastructure behind this will get you set up, get you those texts, and get you on your way. But if you've done this before, you know how easy it is. You can sit there, and the first time I did it, I think I had a paperweight, and I just put it down on my space bar or my enter key, and it just went, and then I came back. So kind of a, not, sort of lazy way to do it, but it was good. Got the message out. So yeah, please avail yourself of both of those links. And we would love to see you texting with us. It's been probably the most effective way to get to people over the past couple of years, or well, since I've been here with Prop CC, so it's been 4 years now. And we definitely, we're excited for the partnership with One Colorado too, because it's going to expand our reach. So yeah, if you want to get on board with that, that would be wonderful.
Answer 2 questions. Ben, if you can put in the regular link into the chat for our thing that I was looking for it, but couldn't find it.
Yeah.
And we are not specifically working with New Era. We are connected with them and probably should talk with them. It raises an important question. There are a lot of people who are working on these issues around the state, and there are a lot. The districts that most people have focused on are Greeley, Loveland, Adams 12, which is North Glen, Thornton, Brighton, Pueblo, Woodland Park, which is the district that has gone the farthest. And I'll get what we're trying to do, the focus of our efforts with One Colorado, and it may, I hopefully will dovetail very nicely with what New Era may be doing, but I will check in with them and see what they're up to, is that we will be texting people who are likely to support schools, but less likely to vote. And so we're going to be trying to get to the less likely voters to tell them your ballot has come. Probably some of you have gotten your ballot already. The ballot's here. Public education is on the ballot. We recommend HHII, and here's a resource where you can learn more about your school board candidates. So that's really our target, is people who might not otherwise know that there's a really important election going on, really would agree with us on the funding issues and the welcoming schools issues, but may not, be keyed in that there's a 2023 election.
Yeah, part of the reason I asked, Lisa, is because I think my generation, and I'm older than you guys, is text out. I am really tired of getting texts from candidates. So I don't know whether there's any way of monitoring who you're sending them to, because you sure don't want to irritate people too.
That is such a huge issue for us, and people do, we get stopped right away and we get called a lot of names. The difficulty that we've found texting, despite that annoyance, because I have, I think, 400 texts that I haven't even deleted that just hang there because I ignore them. But phone calls, people have will not answer the phone. It's really good. So there's digital, and I know the HH campaign is focusing on digital ads, which, you know, if you've got people who want to contact each other, there are not a lot of ways left that people haven't just, you know, put up the guard. So it is it may be hopeful if we're talking to people who are less likely to vote, they're less likely to get text this year as well, because what people focus on in off-year elections is persuading the people who are going to vote. But yeah, no, that is not lost on us, especially since I rarely look at them. Although I do notice who's telling me things, and hopefully hi, I'm a volunteer from grade ed and public education is really important will be a little less annoying than 7 texts daily from this is our last chance to hit our mark for the September 30th deadline or whatever all the things we get are. So absolutely heard, Anne, and we take people out of the system as soon as they get mad at us.
Thank you.
Great. Are there other questions? All right. Doesn't look like it. So I want to move on to just a few things to remind everybody of for the upcoming election. So make sure to drop your ballot by 7 p.m. on November the 7th. If you're going to mail it, please mail it no later than October 31st. Generally, a week out is a pretty good rule. And I sort of raked the internet for everything I could find there, and that was the date that came up most and was also reflected on officials' pages as well. So this is a big one, and I will go ahead and put this link in a chat in just a second. A lot of people don't know where to find their ballot boxes, or you know, they don't know that there are a bunch near them and not just one. Like I didn't when I was 18, and I just always thought that the rec center was where you voted, and that was pretty much it. So I'll go ahead and drop that in the chat. And oops. But it would be great if you could share that link with friends and family. And then the other link that we're going to be sharing out, I know I'm going to be sharing it out over the next week to my friends, my family in Colorado, is that public education voter recommendation link that Lisa has already put in the chat. But we do have a few links to share with you. So I'm going to stop sharing real quick. And the first link I'm going to put in the chat is one that Lisa mentioned a little while ago, and it also has a corresponding QR code. And that was the text on your own time link. So again, this is going to take you to our Every Action page, our Every Action sign up page. When you sign up, you might want to make sure to go all the way to the bottom there and select Text Bank. And then we will go ahead and turn that information over to One Colorado so they can get you set up with what you need to text. The next link I'm going to go ahead and put in here is find my polling location and Dropbox. This can be easily found on the Secretary of State's website. All you have to do is type in ballot box locations Colorado or find my ballot box Colorado. And it should be the first result that comes up. And then we'll go ahead and this is the web page for the One Colorado Grade Ed Get Out the Vote text bank. If you don't want to use the QR code, here is the link for that. Lisa, anything to add as far as advisements about the election are concerned?
It's a critical one, and I don't think the urgency is out there yet. I think I'm a little worried that there's urgency on the other side too, on HH especially, in that there's misinformation out there that this is the end of Tabor. So letting people, getting the word out among people who may not know to vote yes on HH, may have heard misinformation. So it's really important to share And we try to make it easy with that public education voter. But this really is a critical year. And so any help that you can give is really fabulous, whether it's texting or just talking to friends, and giving us information about what's happened at the in school board forums and that kind of thing, keeping us posted so that we can put that on our map and keep everybody else posted. I think any other questions about what's happening or comments about what you're hearing in your necks of the woods?
Since you mentioned the drop-off date and the mailing date, is it still true that mailed-in ballots are more than just first-class postage? Because it's over an ounce, just slapping a normal stamp on it doesn't work?
I'm going to look that up to be sure.
Okay, I always drop mine off at the drop-off site, so I never mail it, but that was my understanding last time I heard about such things.
I do know that this is the lightest ballot we've had in a very long time. In 2022, it may have been 3 or 4, at least in Denver, 4 pages. So this is about as light as it can be. But I believe that one stamp will do it. And you know what, we will do the research and make sure that that is in the to make sure not a hurried response, but an accurate response in our email. I would add one other thing, and you will notice that we have not talked about Denver School Board, and we have not been. There are information about what forums to go to for the Denver School Board elections, but the concern, and there are a lot of issues and axes of interest in the Denver School Board, but book banning is not one of them. And so we really are focusing our energies on those places where the students who might those places where we need to really protect students from unwelcoming governance.
I think that's a good way to put it, Lisa. Cool. Well, yeah, we figured this was kind of be a little bit shorter because it's lighter on the actual information and talking more about opportunities. So we don't have anything more in the formal agenda, but if you could please go ahead and save those links in the chat, just open them in another browser, that would be great. Make sure that you're signing up to text, sharing those links to text with friends and family, and then also sharing that link to the public education voter slate with family, as it does contain that map of all of the school board forums. And then obviously don't forget about that Colorado Secretary of State webpage where you can find your ballot box, find your drop box, find a voting location. And happy voting, everyone.
I have a quick question,
Yeah.
which may have been answered at a previous advocates meeting, but who exactly is behind the relentless no on HH ads that have appeared, I believe, on Facebook, maybe in Nextdoor too?
There's
But
some on TV
literally
too.
relentless since August.
The ultimate donor is probably Americans for Prosperity or something in that sort of pro-Tabor anti-tax. So it's Michael Field's Independence Institute, Americans for Prosperity are pretty much behind it, and then some other less transparent groups probably.
So the usual suspects. It's so ironic because this is a tax cut and suddenly they don't talk about that. All they talk about is the loss of your huge Tabor rebate that you've had exactly once that you remember in 31 years. But anyway, okay. I was just wondering. So it's the usual suspects, sounds like.
suspects. And that's why their message is end of Tabor, it increases your taxes. We're not engaging that so much as just saying like the very simple message. This is needed tax relief, especially for the lower income folks and seniors, without hurting schools. And maybe even helping them over time.
Thanks.
Feel like Groundhog Day?
Great. Any more questions before we depart?
This is Nancy, and I'll just give one little tidbit. I know that the Cherry Creek School Board elections, the 3 people, I put my signs out in the front yard already, waiting for the ballots to come today. But one of the candidates, it just came out that he was involved with Tailhook and wrote memoirs that were pretty sketchy, which hopefully people are paying attention, and that will make him not a viable candidate. And the fact that the 2 Republican males that are kind of running as a team, that will hopefully pull that down, and the 2 reelected, and then the new Ruthie Knowles to be elected. So that's the little tidbit in Cherry Creek.
Good to know. Anyone else? All right. Everybody have a pleasant evening, and best of luck on your outreach, and happy voting.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.